Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel that I keep calling Work in Progress, kind of just watching the direction it tends to want to take, and following the yellow brick road. However, I still very much of the mindset that I want to have conversations with people just like you and me, everyday people, about the stories of your life's journey. And the purpose of this is to really just share with one another our particular stories, our particular experiences, or challenges, or, difficult times as well. Just real stuff that's going on in life. And I strongly believe that by doing that, we really help one another. There's always going to be somebody or some bodies that have had the same or going through an experience just like you're talking about. And by you sharing a little bit of how this worked for you, it's going to help them. Plus, I really believe that we're going to find out through these stories that we're much more alike than not alike. So I think at this particular time on this planet right now where we are with this evolutionary process going on, that this would be an ideal time to share the stories and not be famous people. Maybe that's the way to say it. So I always say this at the beginning, and the reason why is my contact information is below this video. So if you're inspired by this idea to have a conversation with me about your particular stories, then just click below and let's see where this goes. Okay, today, what I want to talk about is how do we navigate through this world that appears to be it's dual. There's two things that go on in this world all the time. There's the opposites. There's the light and dark, and good and bad, and happy or sad, and all of these opposites, right? And we come into this body to really have the experience as a spirit, having the experience of a human, or this human experience. So we're not human beings. We're not just that at all. We've entered the body as spirits, or higher self, or whatever you want to call it, in order to have this experience of being human, of form, of being able to experience all of the senses that we can do here on Earth. What happens while we're here is we get lost in the idea of being this separate in person, this ego, we can call it, and the story that's taking place. And so when we get lost in that, we actually have a very different experience than really what we came in to have. What I mean by that is we're lost in the experience. We think we're that character in this story having this experience. And the reality is what we really are is spirit. That is basically the witness, the observer of this experience. That's what we came in to do. As spirit, having a human experience, we are really that observer. We're that witness. We're that spirit having the experience, right? Higher self, whichever words work for you. And for myself, what I've been noticing most often and quite a bit lately is that I can become aware of being this witness, being the observer, of just watching like a movie, watching what's really going on in this particular life or story, as we call it. And so I can have that awareness, and at the same time I'm also in the world, not of the world, as we like to say. So, in other words, there's a paradox, and it's a balancing act that I haven't completely figured out at all, but I keep working toward. And the paradox is we are having an experience and we are in this world, but we're not of the world. So, how do we work through all of this? You know, they sometimes talk about if a person gets really lost in this idea of you're not your body, you're not the character, you're not the ego, etc., then they can get lost into la la land of they're none of this, and that's a place of almost, well, it is losing a connection that is not a good experience. Let's just put it that way. So the goal for all of us that are coming in is to actually wake up to the fact that there is an illusion of thinking that we're the character in this particular story. And just as a reminder, we plan this story out before we ever incarnate. So we plan everything before that. There's a script written of what it is we want to do here, what it is we want to learn, what it is we want to experience. It's all over the place. And then when we actually incarnate, the memory's wiped of that who we really are, which is spirit having a human experience, right? So how do we become how do we navigate through this is really what the idea is. And the first thing is we have to become aware as often as we can that we are observing what's going on. Now, this is easier done, or more easily done, when life is pretty calm, chill, not anything very challenging going on. Just, everyday stuff. And those are the times I find for myself that I can definitely get this sense of observing the story, observing the whole, whatever it is that's going on in the moment. And at that same time, I'm observing the character in the story, but I don't feel separate from it either. And yet I don't feel I'm it. So this is where the balancing act, if you will, comes in. And the more that we can practice, and again, we want to start by doing this during times that are not in any way challenging, or, that we're having any particular strong emotions, or feeling that we're needing to perform in some way. It's just the time where just everyday stuff. I mean, washing dishes, doing laundry, meditating, whatever it is. And the reason that we really want to practice this is because that is where we can be having a very, very different experience of being here on Earth right now. And also, we can be much more impactful and really have a more fulfilling experience of this life. And, this is what can be called the waking up process, or the awakening. A lot of teachers now are saying, we're in the awakening process. And what does that mean? We go through shifts of starting to kind of wake up out of this dream, if you will, and starting to see things from a different point of view and experience things from a different point of view. And less trauma and drama typically then at that point happens in our life. Or if there is some trauma and drama, we're having a different experience of it. There's a distance between us and it because we are really experiencing the whole thing from the higher self, which is the observer, the witness. And so, given that this is clearly the idea of what we're here for, and it allows us to really grasp our purpose, if you will, or mission, as some people call it, of what are we supposed to be doing here. And at this point in time, during this evolutionary process where the body is what's really going through some major shifts in energy and vibrational situations, and it's a challenging time in just that. But it's also then a very important time for the more of us, as many of us that can, to start to awaken out of the illusion that we're this character in this particular play, if you will, that we wrote and decided that we wanted to have this particular whatever it is that we're here. We're all here for kind of different reasons in a way, to learn or to do here. And it can sound simple when we're talking about it, but it isn't simple. And when we have to kind of figure our way or navigate our way through the process. And I believe the only way that we can ever get through any of this is by first becoming aware. And the becoming aware means we have to quiet the mind. We have to get out of our own melodrama that might be going on. We have to start to really notice what our beliefs are and how those may be keeping us in this illusion. There's a whole lot going on at one time to kind of work through. And it's not like we can work through everything at the same time, so we kind of pick things, choose things that we're maybe more attracted to, or kind of like a magnet sometimes, we're more drawn to something to begin to work on. So for instance, today as I'm talking about, being the observer and the witness, being in the world but not of the world, those are the things that I've most recently find myself to being a kind of attracted to working with. And it is, like I said, it's a paradox. It's not easy, but it is doable, actually. And what I've noticed for myself is when I get caught in a belief, certain beliefs, and it can be simple, not a biggie, right? Just everyday life belief. It's much harder for me then to just be the observer. And I kind of fall into that trap, if you will, of thinking I'm the character in this particular movie that I'm watching. Like I said, it can be really simple. Like, we've had problems here in California where so many of the storms, the winds, and the rain have actually cut off our power. And of course, then we don't have internet. And I've spoken about this before. And I notice how my reaction is quite strong. Like, I don't like that. Like, it's not, I don't want this. I just, I don't want the power out. It's very inconvenient. And I don't want the internet out because that's even more inconvenient in some ways. And so I find myself then kind of being pulled back into thinking that I'm this character having this experience, and I no longer am part of just observing, witnessing what's going on. So it's a flip-flop, is really what it's like many times. Many times it's a flip-flop. Like, I can be really very connected to being the observer, witnessing, kind of flowing with life, letting life flow through me, and being kind of in a place of complete okayness, of acceptance, of everything's fine, everything is fine. Not like trying to make everything, what do I want to say, like goody two-shoes, like, being ultra positive, not like that. It actually is at a neutral level of it's just happening. Life is just happening. And I must say that is my favorite experience, is when I'm in that mode. I like it the best. I really do, because it's peaceful. It's at the same time fulfilling. It's a whole different experience. for the little time that it lasts. And the opposite experience of that, of thinking I am this character in this particular story, that's not comfortable. That's where I'm kind of like up and down with all the emotions and totally ungrounded at times and frustrated or angry, or, all those emotions are very strong, or I'm getting triggered into whatever I get triggered with, and I'm just lost. I'm like lost in that movie. And it's so strange because when I'm lost in it, I'm not really aware that I'm lost in it. I'm just in it, you know? It's interesting when you watch a movie, which, like we'll watch on our, at home on Prime, Amazon Prime or whatever when we get the movies. And we just watched a new movie that's out, and it's called The Whale. And Brandon Fraser actually got Best Actor for it, and it's an incredibly well done and wow, very deep movie. And it actually was a play before it was a movie, so almost, to me it felt like a play. But I noticed when I'm in the watching of it, I am the observer. I'm definitely the observer. I'm totally there, intrigued because it's so well done, but I'm observing it because I'm not anybody I'm not the character in that movie. And after the watching of this particular movie, because it was very dramatic, very well, so well done by the character he played, I was thinking to myself, now if he goes home, the main character here, if he goes home every night thinking he's still the person, Charlie was his name in the movie, if he goes home every night still thinking he's Charlie, that would be pretty crazy. I mean, completely crazy. He couldn't really live that way. So as I watch movies, in particular a movie like this that's so moving and so much drama in it, I can get this sense, like, it doesn't, of course it doesn't make sense that he would leave the movie set and think he's still Charlie, the role he's playing. Now, no doubt, he's thinking a lot about Charlie because he's performing, being that character, and there's a lot involved to this character that he has to go through. So I'm sure that's very much on his mind while they're shooting this movie, but not to the place where he thinks he's actually Charlie, the character. But when he's playing that role, he really, I think, needs to be in the mindset of that character. Definitely needs to be in that scene that he's playing as if he is, in fact, Charlie, that character. So to me, movies are real movies. Well, are they real movies? How do I say it? Movies that we watch are a really great example, and maybe a way to practice what I'm trying to talk about, which is, we're not in this life, in our own movie, we're not the character in the movie, yet there's a role that's being played, So in my case, there's a role, Susie is there, that's a role being played, right? So I'm playing that role. Who's the I? There isn't an I, because the I is the higher self, who's not the character, but yet the character's being played. And this is when we bring it to real life, I was going to say, but I don't know what else to call it. If we bring it to what appears to be real life, or to this experience that we're having, then this we can grasp the idea, through our intellect, But when it becomes the experience itself, this is where we kind of get lost. So for me, I use the movie example, the movies that we watch, as an example for myself to keep trying to bring that closer to home, so to speak, closer to a place that I can really um, embrace this idea or the truth of really what's going on here. And whenever so my husband and I would tend to always watch a movie on Sunday afternoon. We pick movies out that we want to watch, and from Prime, Amazon is mostly what we do. We like that, but anyway, or Netflix. And we can see when we watch some really outstanding movies like the one yesterday, The Whale, those type of movies really sink in for me to be able to hold on to for a while anyway, of what this life really is about. And it helps me in, one, not grasping so tight to the illusionary character that's being played out in my particular script and movie that I'm watching. It allows me to loosen that grip, and if nothing else, just to use my imagination, which I do, and I recommend you try this, of what's really who's who. Let's put it that way. Who's playing what role, and to kind of get a clarity of that, so I'm not so stuck in the illusion of it. Now, again, this is way easier when I'm not having any particular challenges or upsets or whatever activities in my life, and things are just kind of smooth. So like everyday simple stuff, whatever it is, cook dinner, do laundry, etc. So that helps. That helps in providing a landscape to do this practice. So I would recommend, if this sounds of interest to you, that you might want to try to kind of compare movies in the way that I've explained it, movies that you're watching, and start to get this idea of, in your own personal, we'll call it, movie, if you're caught up in thinking you're actually that character. If I were caught up into think that, oh, I'm Susie, that's it. Can you pull away a little bit from that and start to see maybe a different point of view and start to become aware? And by the way, when you come aware of the fact that you're the witness or the observer, there's an energetic sensation, I'm going to call it, or something takes place where you actually, it feels to me like I actually have a connection with that. It's not just in my mind, but there's some sort of an energetic connection that takes place, pulling me toward, like I said, like a magnet of experiencing this witness or observer, and then not grasping so much for the character in the movie, my movie. So that is a way to just begin this idea. It's fascinating when you really start to look at it, and it's very valuable to begin to recognize that you're not the character in the movie, and to move toward a lot less suffering that way when you recognize that you're just you're not the character, you're the witness, you're the observer. It's a lot more pleasant and peaceful and meaningful, and all kinds of things, even though it may only last a little time, maybe seconds, maybe an hour. It varies. It really does. It varies. Talking about it helps, or writing about it helps. So that's another thing you could do, is you could write this idea down and see where that takes you, because your guides will help you through this process. Bottom line is paying attention to it, not just thinking about it right now because you're maybe watching this video, or maybe another time because something triggers it a little bit, but really keeping this on your mind, because we're having experiences all day long, all the time, well, in a way, 24/7, even when we're sleeping, there's an experience going on. But when we're in the awakened hours of the day or evening, then this is the time where we can really um, get this idea or this concept, at least start to navigate life through this idea, right? And so, as often as you can catch yourself, where am I? Am I thinking I'm the character right now? Or am I observing? And I'll do it like I'm washing dishes, and I'll say, I get aware, and then I say, okay, who's washing dishes? Or who's observing? Can I observe what I'm doing right now? And then that connection kind of happens, and it's very cool, really is, and so worth the effort, in my opinion. So that's what I wanted to share as best as I can. And again, I always hope this makes sense, and I hope it helps someone. And I'm going to always keep sharing about these ideas. One, as I kind of move through my own process and can gain a little more insight or ways to start to experience that observer self, I'll keep talking about it. Certainly, it's something that we can all practice, definitely. But we have to kind of back away from the busyness or the drama of our life to kind of do it at the beginning. We're just beginners in all this. And then once we can get past beginning, then even though we may be having trauma and drama in our life and lots of stuff going on, we can then learn how to navigate through life by still being this observer, and at the same time still being, having the life, being in the life, but not of the life. So that's my 2 cents today. And again, I hope this made sense. I hope it helps somebody. As I always say, I'm really, that's my goal, is to help. I'd love to hear some comments from you guys. I really, really would, of what's your opinion about this, or maybe how do you do this, or have you any ideas around this, or do you think it's all BS, and whatever. I'd love to hear your comments, whatever they are. And again, just to mention, if you'd like to have a conversation with me about some of your stories and your experiences or challenges as we move through this life, to share with, and to do this, to share it with others, then just look below for my contact info and click on it, and let's see where we can go from there. Also, if you like the video, please click like, and also subscribe, and then there's that little doodad button next to subscribe that lets you know when the videos are being published. So that's there, and I think nothing else to really bring up at this point, other than be kind to yourself. This is something I'm practicing as well, because I think this helps us actually get to the place we want to get as well, when we're not caught up judging ourselves and basically not being kind. And of course, when we can be kind to ourselves, then that allows us excuse me, to be kind or kinder to others. So until next time, I'm going to click off. And of course, if you've watched any of these videos, I have this little clicker, and for some reason, I think it's psychological, I can't make it click off in one click. Now, just by saying that isn't a very good idea. And if I even say, well, I'm going to make this click off in one click, it's all just being, kind of trying to control something, right? So let's just see what happens, right? Let's just see. It doesn't matter if it's 1 click, 3 clicks, right? We'll click. When it wants to click, it'll click. Anyway, till then, take care, and we'll see you next time.